Hello. If you can hear me, please write in the chat box so that I can know that I'm audible enough. Okay, so we're going to wait for some time so that some more people can join. And meanwhile, you can arrange your material that we need. So I'll be working on a watercolor paper. So my watercolor paper is 200 GSM. You can also take any kind of your ordinary paper that you have some plates nearby placed so that you can mix your color in that. That is coffee, that what we are using today. And then we'll be needing some brush. So I'm using a flat brush and some round brush, whichever is available with you. Have 2 containers of water. One we need to keep clean for mixing the coffee. Then we need some cotton for spreading out the color. We will be also needing a little bit of acrylic paint. So I'm here working with this fabric color. You can take your regular acrylic color. And for creating the sketch, we need a pencil and a scale. All right. So let's just wait for some few more minutes. So I'm also sharing the list of supplies that we need in the chat box. Okay. Also, let me show you some of the coffee paintings which I created in my online classes. You can have a look how they look like. So this was just a very basic thing which was done with my junior students, age group 3 to 6 years, and a little advanced. So these are basically landscape. So whenever we work with coffee, I love to make landscapes only, and they look very good in a monochrome manner. So again, a landscape. So all these shades that you can see from light to dark, they all are created with just coffee, or I sometimes use some of my acrylic paints over there just to increase the consistency of the shades. Then this is another one. And here this is done with a negative technique, which we mostly use with watercolors. So yes, this is also done with coffee, and a little bit of color, acrylic paint. So as you can see, the coffee itself gives such a beautiful shine to the picture that you don't have to apply any kind of varnish to it. You can just create it, it dries faster, and just frame it. It has a very good life. Also, it doesn't become too costly when it comes to paper or the material involved in it. Also, the coffee that we will be using, you can just work with your 10 rupee pouch of coffee which is available. You just don't have to go with the brands. Any kind of coffee is good. Also, oh, I have one more here. This is like an African art we created with coffee in one of my online session again. And then I'll show you some of the results wherein we used coffee and we mixed it with some of the acrylic paint and we got such bright effect with them. Right, so here you can see the shades which were created. Starts with browns, yellow ochre, the burnt umber color. So all this was created with coffee plus a little bit of acrylic paint. Like here the tone was all red. The base of the painting was the shades of red, which was again coffee plus acrylic colors. And this is another one. Also, like this one, here we have this bright yellow color which we achieved by using turmeric, haldi powder. So we used haldi powder over here for getting this bright color. And all the black that you see, that's acrylic. All right. Okay, so what we can do is we can start with a sketch. So just pick up your pencil and we can start creating the white basic sketch for this painting. So as you can see on the thumbnail, it's a house with a big tower over here in the center. So that is what we're going to make, and meanwhile other people will also join. So let's start. So those of you who are going to create this painting with me, just place your paper vertical like in portrait. And I am working on an A4 size paper. If you have a bigger paper, you can work on a horizontal paper also. Like you can place your paper in landscape also for this one. All right, so I'm going to use my scale and I'm going to work with my HB pencil. I hope it'll be visible. All right, so this is more or less in the center of the paper. I'll be drawing that tower. So start by drawing the center straight line. So I hope that is visible. All right, so try to draw all these lines parallel to each other so that it doesn't look like a leaning tower of Pisa. All right. So I'm drawing a little fast, but I'll give you time to complete the sketch. So if you're working on a watercolor paper, make sure that you draw it really light. We don't want the color of the graphite to blend with the coffee, otherwise the shade will differ over there. All right. So just to check if your lines are parallel or not, you can just compare those lines with the edge of the paper. So it becomes easy to understand if you're drawing it in correct manner or not. And you can correct it in the very first step. I'm trying to draw it dark, but okay. I know it is not visible. All right, let me just draw it and then I'll make it a little more darker. I think now this pencil is working fine and I hope everyone is able to see. All right, Medha, I hope it is visible now to you. So it's not necessary to use a ruler over here. You can just draw it freehand also. Just remember to draw straight lines over here for the tower. Also, you can draw it a little bit different than what I'm making. That's also fine. So you don't have to draw it exactly the same way I'm making it. You can just make a little bit of variation here and there, or you can just draw it all together in a different manner. The only thing you need to keep in mind is when we start with the colors, that should be similar. That should not change the tone. So giving it some hills under that big tower. So I'm going to wait now for all of you. I'll give you some time, complete the sketch, and then we can start with the coffee. Just leave a message if you're ready with the sketch. So I've kept a lot of free area around. Right, this is almost everything is sky over here, but we'll be making tall trees on both the sides. And that we will just work with a brush and create it. All right. So I'm just going to erase it a little bit so that it doesn't appear this dark now. I hope everyone has made it by now. All right, so to start with the coffee, we don't have to take all of the coffee in one plate. You just take a little amount of coffee in one of the plates, and we'll create the shades from light to dark. So the very first shade that we will be creating is for completely covering the paper, the whole background. So we're going to create a very light shade of coffee over here, that is brown color. So start by adding a little bit of coffee on one side here only, and just take a little bit of water at a time. And we're going to dilute this coffee. So if there are some granules in that, we're going to dilute it completely. So let me just show you the shade, how it will look like once it is done. So here I just added 2-3 drops of water, and when you add it onto the paper you will get such kind of tone, but we want even one shade lighter than that. So what we are going to do, we will be adding some more water to it. All right, so mix it well. We don't want any particles over here, otherwise that is going to create a patch on the paper, right? So we need this kind of very light tone over here. All right, it's still dark. Let's add some more water. Okay. All right, so now we're not going to use brush. We need our cotton, or if you don't have cotton with you, you can just go with the biggest brush that you have. You can take any big flat brush for that, but the cotton will give you a very smooth finish over there. So just take a little bit of cotton, roll it, and we're going to dip it in water first. That is what we're going to do. So dip it in water, nice, soaked up, and then squeeze out all the water from it. And then we're going to dip it into the solution that we created, water plus coffee. And this will go on this paper. So just start to color in standing line like this, and we will cover up this complete portion. So you'll get a very light shade of brown over here. All right. So that is all. So oh, somebody just joined. All right, so those who just joined, it's just we created a little sketch and we just gave one stroke of coffee, that's all. Okay, so that's done. We are going to reuse this cotton. Don't throw it away. It's just soaked up with a very good amount of coffee, so just save it somewhere. Okay, again get back to your plate, and now let's create a little more solution over here. So just take a dry brush and take a little bit of coffee on one side. Now you will ask, why don't we create a complete solution, like we create a lot of coffee mixture and then use it. The coffee actually, when comes in contact with water, it tends to get darker little by little. So we don't want to disturb the consistency of the color, and that's why we just prepare the solution little by little, and so that we can develop a lot of shades out of this. So again, similar manner, but this time I need a tone darker than what we have over here on the paper. So this time we'll increase the amount of cotton, and the water will be little less than what we took previously. All right. So once that is done, see, there is a little lump on my brush, that is coffee. We just need to dilute that. Otherwise, it will give a patch on the paper. So again, you can check it. So this is a little bit dark than the previous one. That is what we want. Again, back to the same cotton that we were using previously. Dip it in cotton, and this time we're not going to give it a complete wash. So we will just try to patch it up on the sides. So this is where we're going to draw the trees. So you just keep on dabbing it, dab, dab, dab. Little by little. So this is again a very light tone that we are giving it, and that's why it's all scattered, and we're not worrying about the texture of the leaves that is going to be created, because we're going to create another layer on top of this, right? So it's like one branch from here, one from here, and one tree here and another tree on this side. There we go. Also, I'm keeping a dry brush whenever I need to, swipe in a little bit of coffee. I have kept a different brush for that. And then there is another brush with which I am taking water and creating this color. So now again we'll create one tone which is darker than this one. So then this is again little more coffee and less of water. So you will realize the less water you add, it will become a little more difficult to blend this. But then yes, just work with your brush, dilute that coffee nice. All right, again you can check it onto the paper. So this is, see, the third shade, which was actually the first shade that we created. All right, so this is, again we're going to work with the cotton. So pick up the same cotton, soak up the solution, and now again when you start dabbing it, you will not dab on the complete area, just wherever you want a little darker tone. So that is just randomly, not everywhere, just a little section, that's all. By now you'll be getting that aroma of coffee also. All right, so once that is done, we will start working on the little tower house here, and we'll allow the background to dry a little bit, and then we'll come back to it and create the third layer of leaves and the branches over there. So this time the solution that we will create will be a little more thicker, and it has to be the third shade only. So little water, just super little water. Now I've changed my brush. I'll be working with the number 3 brush now. So you will see that the coffee will get stuck to the brush, but that's fine. Just keep on blending it onto the palette and it will be diluted in no time. Alright, so now this is done. No more lumps over here. So now let's start coloring it. So we are going to give it a texture as in there are bricks on it. And the light, you can imagine that the light source is from this direction, from here. So this side of the walls are going to be a little more brighter and light. So let's create the darker space first. So let's start from the top. So I'm just adding this shade wherever I need dark spaces on my drawing. Like this. Take a little bit of water if your brush feels dry, but don't take a lot of water. Why? Because the water will dilute the color and the shade of the coffee will change. So don't take a lot of water. Otherwise, you have to take a little more coffee also at the same time. So one more unique thing about this coffee paint is once it is done on the paper, and if you're using an acrylic sheet or a watercolor paper, if you wash it, the coffee is not going to come out. Unlike watercolors, it is not going to spoil the painting. The coffee stays on the paper wherever it is. It will not even degrade in the shades also. All right. So now once I just added it on the top part, here I want a lighter shade. So I'm switching my brush. Now I just have some water only. And while this coffee is a little wet, I'll just spread it or blend it onto the paper. See, as I said, it is difficult. Once it dries up, you cannot disturb it. So be a little quick when you have to create this kind of light and dark effect in one go. So all the sides, all the dimensions over here, I'm making them darker, which are coming on the left hand side. So if you have made another portion of the house on this side also, you just color the left hand portion of the house darker. Like that. All the windows we're going to make them dark. There is less light coming from the inside. Okay. So now I'm again going to wait for some few more minutes so that all of you can create this much. I believe I can lower my camera a little more so that you can see that nice. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can write in the chat box. Okay, I think that is Lavanya. Thank you so much. I hope you are making the drawing with me. Okay. So just write in the chat box once you're done with this much, and then we'll move forward. So if you're not able to blend the coffee, you just have to work on your palette. Add more coffee and little water. Try to create the shade in the palette and not on the paper. Give it some more time, and it will be diluted in water. Alright, let's create the second layer. So now this time I have a little bit of color in my palette. I'm going to just take a little more water because on this side we need a tone lighter than this one. So just add a little bit of water over there. Just add it on some part of the paper and check if it is dark. You'll add a little more water. Yes, so I'll create a little lighter tone than this one. And we just add it on the other side of the building. So here you can even overlap the darker tone. It's not going to disturb that. And then we have to give some time for this structure to dry a little bit. Meanwhile, we'll be completing the background and the base over here. So coming back to the base, over here we need that piece of cotton again. If it is not hard enough, you can still use it. So we'll just dip it in the same solution. I just added a few more drops of water to this. Dip it in water, in the coffee solution, and we just color the hills with the coffee only. All right, now is the time when we use our acrylic color. Or yes, okay, let's create one more shade which is darker than this one, and then we will use the acrylic shade. All right, so let's take some more coffee here. And now this time we need it to be really thick. Just we will add water drop by drop. We'll keep it really thick. Just add it drop by drop. So you can see this color also doesn't move on the palette also. It is that thick. So now with your again number 3 brush I'm working with, you can take number 1 or number 2 if you're not comfortable using number 3 brush for creating tiny lines, thin lines or spots like that. All right, so let's take this and we'll start dabbing it and create some darker shades over here so that it looks like some leaves. So again, you have to be really careful over here. We just don't have to cover the whole area, uh, creating that dark space. So you can see the reflection of the light tone that we created initially with the cotton, and on top of it we are just making those dark shades so that you can see the layering. The trees which are far away, you can see them light. The ones which are just in front, they're coming out darker, and so that you get a dimension in the painting, you get the depth over there which is required. Keep on mixing the coffee whenever it's over. It takes a little time to dilute, but that's fine. Don't create it in bulk because it will dry on your palette and then you have to add more water to it to activate it, which we don't want. Again, a reason being the same, that it is going to change the color or the shade of the required shade. So you will also notice that as the shade of the coffee gets darker, it also gets brighter. You will see the shine of the coffee here. Right, same way we're going to make some leaves over here. Also, just keeping the tone of this painting monochrome, I'm not adding any other color. If you want a little reddish texture over there, you can always take some acrylic red color over there, blend it with the coffee mixture, and you can create that reddish brown color and achieve that texture for the leaves and for the flowers if you want to draw some. Make sure that the light shade from the base is visible. Don't just cover it all up. Otherwise, what's the point of creating that layer underneath? So just keep that visible between the dots, around the dots, somewhere in between it should be visible that ways. So it'll look a little more natural. All right. So while you complete this much, I am just going to create the same shade a little more. All right, so just work with the same kind of tone, the same darker tone, and we'll come over here for the hills. So wherever we have that lines that we initially made, we're just going to make a little darker. Keep two brushes in your hand, one for just plain water for blending it. So the top is going to be dark, and as you start blending it, you need to create that lighter tone. This you need to be a little quick, otherwise the coffee will dry on the paper. All right, so just move on with that. Same way, we'll just complete this side also. Add some water. So this is a little tricky, but yes, you can still work. Also, you can change your brush, take a bigger brush if you want to. Thicker brush as in number 6 or number 7. And I'm going to keep this area a little more darker over here, so that the house is highlighted more and it looks as if it is on top of the hill. Right, more of that coffee, and then just use your brush. There you go. So you will just see it is still not complete. We're going to work with our black color now, and then it will look more nice. Okay, so just clean your brush now, because the coffee also gets stick to the bristles, and it'll become harder for you to work with it. All right. Okay, so now what we're going to do, once we're done with all this, so take your number 1 brush. We're going to make some fine lines like brushes and everything, or like branches and all. So just work with the tip of your brush, as I always say. Same tone. So now you will, when you will see the palette, the coffee is getting thickened up, but that's okay. All right. So let's make some fine branches. So again, you can go random and make some Y-shaped, alphabet Y-shaped branches here and there, anywhere. Just don't make a lot of them. It's like some are coming from here and some over there. Here, that is the trunk of the tree. Some few branches that you see in between the leaves. There you go. All right, now is the time to use your acrylic black. So if you're working with your acrylic tubes, just take out a little bit of that. If you have this fabric color, kind of, just I have taken a little bit on the tip of my brush and add it onto the same palette. You'll be needing more little later, and just mix it with this so that you get a darker shade of brown. We don't want black, we need a burnt umber kind of color, like a brownish black color. Okay, so this again, we come back to the house and we'll create some darker spaces over there. So just work with the thinnest brush that you have. So this is the under the roof area. Okay, Diksha, you just joined. Uh, that's fine. You'll be getting a recording of this video. Once the video ends, you'll be getting one on YouTube only. So you'll be able to see that again. So you can just watch what we are doing right now, and then you can create the drawing after this live session. Right? So just create these kind of dark spaces. You can color the doors and the windows. And over here also, I'm not going to color the whole thing. I will just leave a little lighter portion over there. So as this is acrylic color mixed with coffee, it is going to dry even faster. Yes, अभी हम कॉफ़ी से ही ड्राइंग बना रहे हैं दीक्षा. So this is all coffee that we are working with. Right, so you can see that this looks even more three-dimensional now. Thank you, Medha. I hope you're also making it with me. So let's just add a little darker area over here also. So I just added a little color over there, and I'll just work with my brush, which has just a little bit of water for spreading it. There you go. Alright, so now using the same color for the heels now. So I am in a bit hurry because I don't want the color to dry on my palette. So just work a little faster. Alright, so we'll get back to the areas which were originally dark as we created them. Take a different brush and a little bit of water. Dilute it a little bit, not much. And then I just kept this portion over here without any color. This I will make all dark now. See, the color is all dried up on my palette now. Anyways, so there you go. That's like a little pathway between the hills. Let's just create a little more this coffee black color. So you see, we just used coffee which was even less than 1 spoon. If you're working on a bigger paper, you will need more coffee. That's all. Otherwise, we just need a little amount of coffee and you can create your own masterpiece. You can create any design. We just made something which was a landscape. You can create any kind of design with this. All right, so just highlighting the tree and the branches a little bit. Also just dab a little more for creating some more leaves. So still it should not appear like black color on the paper. It should be like more of a burnt umber kind of shade, a darker brown, like the blackish brown color. There. Now I'm adding a little more black color to this. I want a little more darker shade. Work with your thin brush, 0 number. Don't dilute that color a lot, as in don't add a lot of water to this. We'll just highlight some of the areas of the house, like this big tower over here. So now I'm just giving it a texture of some bricks on it. Make sure you don't put your hand over here. This area is all wet, so just keep that in mind. I am also not giving a complete outline. I'm just highlighting a little area of this building, and wherever there is a darker shade, there you can add a complete thick black line over there. Again on this side roof, let's make some texture. there. And same way for the windows. For windows and for the door, I'm giving a good complete outline. It'll look better, prominent if you outline them. Here also this roof, just add some few drops just to look, give it a rough texture over there. And the same black color, I'm just again using it over here under the tree, creating the darkest layer of bushes over there. So again, start dab, 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 dab with your brush. Let's just add a little dots over here also, the darker shade. And just a little more highlights for the trees and the branches, that's all. You can also make a little pattern over here as if there are some a little staircase over here going upwards towards this house. Like that, right? You just need 1 spoon of coffee, Diksha, that's all, not more than that, or a little less than that to complete this. So wherever you feel like you need a little more highlighting, you can just add that black color. There you go. So now this is how you complete the painting. You can also see the shine on the paper, mostly over here around this area where we have used a lot of darker shade of coffee. There we are getting that kind of shade. All right, so let's see, let's just take off this tape and see how this looks like, the final image. So I hope all of you enjoyed the session. I would love to see your final pictures. Do share them with me. the final one. Okay, this one is difficult. Oh. Alright, so this has been stuck to my drawing now. Alright, so this is the final image. This is how it will look like once it is done. And it's all done. Even if you spread some of the water on it, it is not going to affect the coffee or the black acrylic paint. You can frame it like this only, and it has a very long life, this coffee. It is not going to, dull out. It's going to remain the same shine. All right, so after some time, this live session will be uploaded on my YouTube channel. So those who missed, like Diksha, you can try that after some times. If you have any questions for me, do let me know. You can type in the chat box. I can reply you by that. Let me show my other coffee paintings that I have, which I created in some other sessions. Like this is the one, this kind of forest. So here also you can see some layerings. You have the light colored trees, then the darker, and then the most darkest one. So this is again one of my favorites. So yes, you can create any kind of pattern, as I said. And there is this lady, that's kind of an African art which I created. So here I also used white acrylic color for creating this complete white effect, and also I also used some of my markers for creating those fine lines here. All right, so I think I'm about to end the session here. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Do share your final work with me. Thank you so much for being a part of this live session. I'll see you soon in another live session. Thank you. Bye bye. Bye everyone.